My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 34, an architect in Seattle, Washington, with a heart that's always been tethered to the idea of creating something enduring, something beautiful. 10 years ago, I poured every ounce of my soul and savings into building a home on the shores of Lake Tahoe, Nevada, a shimmering expanse of crystal water framed by the Sierra Nevada mountains. That house wasn't just wood and glass. It was my sanctuary, my proof that dreams could rise from determination, no matter how many voices told me to settle for less. If you've ever chased a vision others couldn't see, felt the weight of doubt but pushed forward anyway, my story might resonate. Let me take you back to where it all began, to the spark that lit my path and the sacrifices that built it. Growing up in suburban Denver, Colorado, I was the dependable daughter in a middle-class family that prized practicality over passion. My parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, were the kind of people who believed in safe but stable jobs, modest homes, predictable lives. They weren't cruel, but their love came with conditions, always measured against what they deemed sensible. My younger brother, Ethan, was their golden child, the one they doted on despite his string of failed ventures. Me? I was the dreamer, the one sketching floor plans in notebooks while my mother's voice echoed, "Sarah, stop doodling castles in the air. Focus on something that'll pay the bills." Those words stung, but they didn't dim the fire inside me. If anything, they fanned it. From my earliest memories, I found solace in design. As a child, I'd sit cross-legged on the floor of our Denver living room, surrounded by colored pencils, sketching dream homes with soaring windows and cozy fireplaces. Each line was an escape, a rebellion against the practicality my parents preached. I'd imagine homes where people felt safe, inspired, alive. By high school, my passion for architecture was undeniable. I poured myself into art and design classes, earning praise from teachers who saw potential my parents couldn't. "You have a gift, Sarah," my art teacher once said, handing back a detailed blueprint I'd drawn for a class project. "Don't let anyone tell you it's not worth pursuing." When I got accepted to the architecture program at Cornell University with a partial scholarship, it felt like a validation of everything I'd worked for. But my parents' reaction was tepid at best. "College is expensive," my father warned, adjusting his glasses as if calculating my failure. "Architecture is cutthroat. Don't expect miracles." My mother was blunter. "You're setting yourself up for disappointment, Sarah." Their words were heavy, but I wasn't about to let them anchor me. I took on 3 jobs to cover what the scholarship didn't: early mornings at a coffee shop, weekends guiding tours at the campus welcome center, and evenings drafting plans for a local architect. Every paycheck was a step closer to my dream, every late night a testament to my resolve. I lived frugally, sharing a cramped apartment with my roommate Rachel, who would later become a real estate attorney in Portland. Rachel was my cheerleader, the one person who saw the spark in my sketches and believed in my vision. "You're going to build something extraordinary someday," she'd say during our late-night study sessions, her voice warm with conviction. "And I'll be there to handle the paperwork." Her faith kept me going when exhaustion threatened to win. Every dollar I didn't spend on tuition or ramen went into a savings account I labeled Tahoe Dream. It wasn't just a bank account, it was a promise to myself that I could build something lasting, something mine. After graduation, I landed a job at a respected architectural firm in Seattle. The pay wasn't lavish, but it was a start. I rented a tiny studio apartment, packed my own lunches, and skipped the trendy bars my colleagues frequented. My life was simple work, sketch, save, but it had purpose. Each month, my Tahoe Dream Fund grew, a quiet rebellion against the voices that had told me to aim lower. Meanwhile, Ethan drifted through life, dropping out of 2 colleges and burning through our parents' money with failed business ideas, a food truck, a tech startup, a clothing brand. "He's just finding his way," my mother would say, her tone soft for him, in a way it never was for me. "He's creative, Sarah, not rigid like you." Those words cut deep, but I turned the pain into fuel. 5 years into my career, a big client win at the firm earned me my first real bonus. Most people would have splurged on a car or a vacation, but I had other plans. For weeks, I scoured listings for lakefront properties within driving distance of Seattle. That's when I found it 3 acres on Lake Tahoe's north shore, with views of snow-capped peaks and water so clear it mirrored the sky. Standing on that land for the first time, watching the sunset paint the lake in hues of amber and violet, I felt my heart settle. This was it. This was where my dream would take root. I called Rachel that night, my voice trembling with excitement. "I found it," I said. "It's perfect." When I told my parents about the purchase, their reaction was predictable. "Lakefront property?" My mother scoffed over dinner in their Denver dining room. "That's a money pit, Sarah. You could have bought a condo in a nice neighborhood." My father shook his head, his voice heavy with doubt. "Taxes, maintenance, isolation, you haven't thought this through." Their disapproval was a familiar ache, but I brushed it off. This wasn't their dream. It was mine. For the next 5 years, I poured everything into building that house. I worked with a contractor on weekends, driving 6 hours from Seattle to Tahoe, my car packed with blueprints and hope. I designed every detail: my self-in, open-concept living space, with floor-to-ceiling windows to frame the lake, a stone fireplace crafted from rocks I hand-picked from the property, a wraparound deck where I pictured friends gathering under the stars. Every nail driven, every beam raised was a victory. I sacrificed vacations, new clothes, dinners, out anything that wasn't essential. My colleagues marveled at my discipline, but to me, it wasn't sacrifice, it was devotion. To give back to the community that would soon be my second home, I started hosting sketching workshops for kids in the Tahoe area. On sunny afternoons, I'd gather local children on the property, handing out pencils and paper, teaching them to draw their own dream homes. Their wide-eyed excitement reminded me why I'd chosen this path. "Can my house have a tower?" one girl asked, her pencil flying across the page. "It can have anything you dream," I told her, smiling. Those moments fueled me, a reminder that creativity could inspire others, just as it had inspired me. When the house was finally complete, I stood in the living room as golden light poured through the windows, just as I'd imagined a decade earlier in my childhood sketches. It was more than a house, it was a testament to my resilience. A middle finger to every doubt I'd faced. My colleagues in Seattle were impressed, some even renting the place for weekend getaways, which helped cover maintenance costs. Even Ethan, during a rare visit, gave a grudging nod. "Pretty cool, sis," he said, looking out at the lake. But my parents? They remained unmoved. "All that money tied up in a vacation home you barely use," my mother said over the phone, her voice dripping with judgment. And in the middle of nowhere. What they couldn't grasp was that the house wasn't just a building. It was my refuge, my proof that I could build something beautiful despite their skepticism. Every Friday, I'd make the drive to Tahoe, feeling the week's stress melt away with each mile. Mornings were spent with coffee on the deck, watching mist rise from the lake. Afternoons were for sketching by the water, ideas flowing freely in the quiet. By Sunday, I'd return to Seattle renewed, ready to face the world. That house was my heart's home, a place where I was enough. Little did I know, it would soon become the center of a betrayal that would shatter everything I'd built. Every family has its fault lines, those hidden cracks that run beneath the surface, invisible until pressure reveals them. For me, Sarah Mitchell, those cracks were etched into my childhood in suburban Denver, Colorado, long before I ever dreamed of building my home on Lake Tahoe's shores. At 34, standing on the precipice of a betrayal I never saw coming, I look back and see how those early fractures shaped, pushed me to prove myself, but also left me vulnerable to the pain of being unseen by the people who should have known me best. If you've ever felt like your family didn't truly see you, like your dreams were dismissed while someone else's were celebrated, this part of my story might feel all too familiar. Let me take you into the heart of my family, where love was conditional, and where the seeds of a devastating betrayal were quietly sown. Growing up in our modest Denver home, I was the reliable one, the daughter who got straight A's, who never caused trouble. My parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, were pillars of practicality, the kind of people who believed dreams were luxuries for other families, not ours. They weren't unkind, but their affection was measured, doled out in small doses, and always tied to their expectations. My younger brother, Ethan, was different. 4 years my junior, he was the charming, impulsive dreamer they adored, the one who could do no wrong even when he did. I loved Ethan, his quick laugh, his wild ideas, but I couldn't help noticing how our parents' eyes lit up for him in a way they never did for me. "Ethan's got big plans," my mother would say, her voice warm with pride, even as he flunked out of yet another college course. "He just needs time to find his path." For me, time was never the answer. My passion for architecture, evident from the moment I could hold a pencil, was met with skepticism. I'd spend hours sketching dream homes, sprawling ranches, cozy cabins, modern lofts, each one a world where I could be free. But whenever my mother caught me, her response was the same. Sarah, stop wasting time on these fantasies. You need a real plan, something stable. My father was quieter, but his silence spoke volumes. Once, when I showed him a detailed blueprint I'd drawn at 13, he glanced at it and said, "Pretty, but it won't pay the rent." Their words weren't just criticism, they were a dismissal of who I was at my core. I started keeping a journal then, a secret space where I poured out my hurt and my hopes. One day, I wrote at 15, "I'll build a house that proves them wrong, not for them, but for me." The journal became my lifeline, a place to process the sting of being overlooked. I'd write about the moments that hurt most, like the time my parents spent thousands on Ethan's failed music festival idea while telling me they couldn't help with my college application fees. Or the Christmas when they bought Ethan a new laptop for his entrepreneurial ventures, but gave me a practical sweater saying, "You're the sensible one, Sarah." Sensible. The word felt like a cage, locking me into a role I never chose. But instead of breaking, I leaned into it. If sensible meant working harder, dreaming bigger, I'd make it my strength. Each journal entry ended with a promise. I'll build my dream no matter what they think. High school was where I started to carve my own path. I threw myself into art and design classes, staying late to perfect my sketches, earning praise from teachers who saw what my parents couldn't. "You're going to be an architect," my design teacher told me, her eyes bright with certainty. "Don't let anyone dim that light." Her words were a balm, but they couldn't erase the ache of my parents' indifference. When I got into Cornell's architecture program with a partial scholarship, I hoped for a moment of pride from them. Instead, my mother sighed. "It's a lot of debt for a risky career." My father added, "You'll need a backup plan." Their doubt was a weight I carried, but it also fueled me. I worked 3 jobs through college barista shifts, campus tours, drafting for a local firm determined to prove I didn't need their approval to succeed. Ethan, meanwhile, drifted. He'd enroll in a college, drop out, start a business, then abandon it when the next big idea struck. Our parents bankrolled his every whim: a food truck, a tech app, a clothing line, each failure excused as part of his journey. "He's creative," my mother would say, her tone implying I wasn't. "You're too structured, Sarah. Loosen up." The comparison stung, not because I envied Ethan's freedom, but because it felt like my discipline was a flaw. In my journal I wrote, "They see his chaos as potential, but my focus as limitation. I'll show them what focus can build." When I bought the land on Lake Tahoe after years of saving, it was my ultimate act of defiance. I'd spent my 20s living frugally in Seattle, squirreling away every penny for that 3-acre plot with its breathtaking views. The day I signed the papers, I stood on the shore, the lake sparkling under the Nevada sun, and felt like I'd finally claimed a piece of myself. I called Rachel, my college roommate and now a real estate attorney, her voice crackling with excitement over the phone. "Sarah, this is it. Your dream's coming to life." But when I shared the news with my parents, their reaction was a cold splash of reality. "Lakefront property?" my mother said, her voice sharp over dinner in their Denver kitchen. "That's reckless, Sarah. You should have invested in something practical, like a house in the suburbs." My father shook his head. "Taxes alone will bury you. You're not thinking straight." Their words echoed every doubt they'd planted in me since childhood. But I was done letting them define me. I started building the house anyway, pouring my heart into every detail. The process wasn't just about construction. It was about reclaiming my worth. But the cracks in our family were growing. My mother's questions about the Tahoe property became oddly specific, asking about its value, my maintenance costs, my work schedule. My father, usually distant, started calling to check in more often. I brushed it off, too focused on my dream to see the warning signs. Ethan, meanwhile, was sinking deeper into debt, his latest venture, a craft brewery, collapsing under mismanagement. Our parents bailed him out again, never mentioning where the money came from. In my journal, I wrote, "They'll always choose him, but I choose me." Looking back, I see how those early fractious me parents' dismissal, their favoritism toward Ethan, their inability to value my dreams, set the stage for what was to come. They didn't just doubt me, They saw my achievements as resources to be controlled, not celebrated. I didn't know then that their skepticism was hiding something darker, something that would lead to a betrayal so profound it would shatter my world. But in those moments of rejection, I was already learning to stand on my own. My journal, filled with years of hurt and resolve, became my quiet rebellion, a reminder that my worth wasn't tied to their approval. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, know this. Your dreams are valid, even when the people closest to you can't see them. For me, those cracks in my family's foundation were painful, but they also taught me to build my own stronger, truer, and entirely mine. There's something sacred about building something with your own hands, about turning a vision into reality. One nail, one beam, one dream at a time. For me, Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect in Seattle, that sacred act was building my home on the shores of Lake Tahoe, Nevada. It wasn't just a house, it was a declaration of who I was, a testament to every sacrifice I'd made, every doubt I'd overcome. For 5 years, I poured my heart, my savings, and my soul into that 3-acre plot, creating a sanctuary that stood as proof that I could shape my own future, no matter how many voices told me to aim lower. If you've ever poured everything into a dream, only to feel it slip through your fingers, my story of building and later losing that home might resonate. Let me take you through the journey of crafting my dream, brick by brick, and why it meant so much more than wood and glass. The seed for my Lake Tahoe home was planted long before I ever set foot on that pristine shoreline. As a child in suburban Denver, I'd sketched dream homes in secret, hiding my notebooks from my parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, who saw my passion for architecture as a childish whim. Their disapproval only deepened my resolve. And by my late 20s, after years of scraping by in Seattle, I'd saved enough to buy 3 acres on Tahoe's North Shore. The moment I stood on that land, the mountains stood like silent guardians, and the water reflected a future I could build. I called my college roommate, Rachel, now a real estate attorney in Portland, my voice shaking with excitement. "This is it," I told her. "This is where my home will be." Building that house wasn't just a project, it was a pilgrimage. I designed every inch myself, sketching late into the night after long days at my architectural firm. The vision was clear, an open concept living space, with floor-to-ceiling windows to drink in the lake's beauty, a stone fireplace crafted from rocks I'd collected from the property, a wraparound deck where I imagined laughter and conversations under the stars. Every detail was personal, a piece of my soul woven into the structure. The kitchen's custom cabinets were inspired by my childhood sketches, their clean lines a nod to the simplicity I craved. The bedroom loft, tucked under the eaves, was a space for quiet reflection where I could watch the sunrise paint the lake in shades of pink and gold. This wasn't just a house, it was my heart's home, a place where I could finally be enough. The process was grueling. For 5 years, I lived more frugally than ever, cutting out vacations, new clothes, even small indulgences like dining out. My Seattle studio apartment was bare bones. My meals were homemade, and my social life was non-existent. Every dollar went to the Tahoe house. Weekends were spent driving 6 hours each way, my car loaded with blueprints, tools, and determination. I worked alongside a small team of contractors, hammering nails, sanding wood, and hauling materials under the Nevada sun. My hands blistered, my body ached, but every ache was a badge of honor. Each board I helped raise felt like a victory over my parents' doubts, over their insistence that I'd never make it in a risky field like architecture. In my journal, I wrote, "This house is mine. Not theirs. Not anyone's. Mine." But it wasn't just about me. I wanted the house to be a gift to the world around it, a way to connect with the Tahoe community that had welcomed me. Inspired by my childhood love of teaching others to dream, I started hosting open house events during construction, inviting locals to see the progress and share their own stories. Families would come, kids running across the unfinished deck, their parents marveling at the views. "This is going to be something special," one neighbor said, her eyes tracing the skeleton of the great room. I also organized sketching workshops for local children, setting up tables on the property where they could draw their own dream homes. "Can mine have a slide?" a boy named Lucas asked, his pencil flying across the page. "It can have anything you imagine. I told him, my heart swelling. Those moments reminded me why I'd chosen this path, not just to build for myself, but to inspire others to see beauty and possibility. When the house was finally complete, I stood in the great room, the late afternoon light streaming through those massive windows, just as I'd envisioned. The fireplace glowed with warmth, the deck stretched toward the lake, and the air smelled of fresh pine and promise. It was exactly what I'd dreamed of as a girl. Now real, solid, mine. I invited a small group of friends from Seattle for a celebration that first weekend, their laughter filling the space as we toasted to new beginnings. Rachel, who'd driven up from Portland, raised her glass and said, "Sarah, you did this. You built your dream." Her words brought tears to my eyes, not just for the house, but for the journey it represented. Every late night, every sacrificed vacation, every moment I'd chosen myself over doubt. My colleagues at the firm were in awe when I shared photos. "This is magazine-worthy," one said, flipping through images of the lake views. Some even asked to rent it for weekends, which helped offset the property taxes my parents had warned me about. Even Ethan, my brother, made a rare visit from Denver. "Okay, sis," he said, standing on the deck with a beer in his hand. "This is pretty." His grudging admiration was unexpected, a flicker of connection in a family that rarely offered it. But my parents remained unmoved. During a rare call, my mother's voice was sharp. "All that money for a place you'll barely use?" "In the middle of nowhere," my father added. "You're tying up your future, Sarah. It's not practical." Their words, so familiar, barely touched me now. This house wasn't for them. It was for me. What they couldn't see, what I wish they'd understood, was that the house was more than a building. It was my sanctuary, my proof that I could create something beautiful despite their skepticism. Every Friday, I'd drive to Tahoe, the weight of the workweek lifting with each mile. Mornings were spent with coffee on the deck, the lake's stillness grounding me. Afternoons were for sketching, my ideas flowing freely in the quiet. By Sunday, I'd return to Seattle renewed, my spirit stronger. The house wasn't just a place to live. It was a place to heal, to dream, to be. I didn't know then that it would soon become the heart of a betrayal that would test everything I'd built. But in those moments, standing on that deck with the lake stretching before me, I felt invincible. If you've ever poured your heart into something, a project, a dream, a hope, know this. Its value isn't in what others see, but in what it means to you. For me, that house was everything. A beacon of my resilience, and I'd fight to protect it, no matter what came next. Some moments change you forever, not because they're loud or dramatic, but because they strike at the core of who you are. For me, Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect in Seattle, that moment came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, when a single phone call shattered the world I'd spent a decade building. My home on Lake Tahoe's North Shore, the sanctuary I'd crafted with every ounce of my heart and savings, had been sold without my knowledge, my signature forged on documents I'd never seen. The betrayal wasn't just a theft of property, it was a theft of trust, a violation so deep it left me questioning everything I thought I knew about family, love, and myself. If you've ever had the ground pulled out from under you by the people you trusted most, my story of that devastating discovery might echo your own. Let me take you back to the day my dream became a nightmare, and how I began to fight for the truth. It was a typical day at my architectural firm in Seattle. I was hunched over blueprints for a new downtown project, my pencil marking corrections in the soft hum of the office. Most of my colleagues were out for lunch when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number from the Tahoe area code. I answered, balancing the phone on my shoulder, expecting a routine call about property maintenance. "Hello, Sarah Mitchell speaking," I said, my voice casual. On the other end, Linda Carter, my neighbor at Lake Tahoe, spoke with a mix of warmth and concern. "Sarah, it's Linda from next door. I just wanted to check in. The new owners moved into your house today. Nice folks, the Thompsons. I was surprised you didn't stop by to say goodbye." The words hit like a physical blow. My pencil froze mid-mark, the blueprint blurring before my eyes. "I'm sorry. What new owners?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Linda's tone shifted to confusion. "The Thompsons. They said they bought your house last month. I thought..." Didn't you sell it? The room seemed to tilt, the air growing heavy. No, I said, my heart pounding. I didn't sell my house. There must be a mistake. Linda's voice softened, tinged with worry. Oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry. They're here now with moving trucks. I assumed you knew. I thanked her, my hands trembling as I ended the call. The office, usually a haven of focus, felt suffocating. My house, my sanctuary, built with 10 years of sacrifice, was gone? It didn't make sense. I hadn't signed anything, hadn't spoken to any buyers. My mind raced, grasping for explanations, but a sickening realization began to settle in. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. I dialed my parents, Margaret and David, in Denver. No answer. I tried my brother, Ethan. Straight to voicemail. With shaking fingers, I called Rachel, my college friend and real estate attorney in Portland. Rachel, I need you, I said, my voice breaking. Something's wrong with my house. Desperate for clarity, I started recording my thoughts on my phone, a habit I'd picked up from journaling. This can't be happening, I whispered into the mic, my voice raw. That house is everything I've worked for. Someone took it. The act of speaking, even to myself, grounded me, gave me a way to process the chaos. I knew I couldn't stay in the office. I need emergency leave, I told my supervisor, already grabbing my bag. Family situation. He nodded, concern in his eyes, but I was already halfway out the door. The 6-hour drive from Seattle to Lake Tahoe felt like an eternity. I called the local police, my voice shaking as I explained the situation, but they were hesitant. Without proof of fraud, it looks like a legal sale, the officer said. You'll need to speak with a lawyer. I left voicemails for every real estate attorney in my contacts, my hope fading with each unanswered call. The highway stretched endlessly before me, the familiar route to my sanctuary now a path to confrontation. I played back my recorded thoughts, the sound of my own voice a mix of fear and fury keeping me focused. I built that house, I said to the empty car. No one had the right to take it. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the sight stole my breath. A moving truck sat in the parking area, and through the floor-to-ceiling windows I'd designed, I saw unfamiliar furniture filling my great room. A man in his 40s emerged from the front door, his expression friendly but cautious. Can I help you? He asked. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm Sarah Mitchell. This is my house. His face shifted to confusion, then concern. I'm Michael Thompson. We bought this property last month from you, according to the paperwork. My knees weakened. May I see it? I asked, clinging to composure. Michael retrieved a folder from inside, his wife, Jennifer, joining us with their 2 children peeking out from behind her. They seemed like a kind family, their excitement for their new home palpable. The closing documents bore my name, my signature, on every line. But I'd never seen them before. The sale price was listed as $700,000, a fraction of what I now knew the property was worth, thanks to recent commercial rezoning around Lake Tahoe. This isn't my signature, I said quietly, my voice trembling. I didn't sell this house. The Thompsons' faces fell, their shock mirroring my own. Michael hesitated, then pulled another document. We have a power of attorney, he said carefully. It gave your parents authority to sell on your behalf. The paper was dated 6 months earlier, during a work trip to Chicago when I'd been unreachable for days. The signature looked eerily like mine, but the details were wrong: the curve of the S, the slant of the M. It was a forgery, meticulous but flawed. This isn't real, I said, my voice barely audible. My parents forged this. The Thompsons exchanged a glance, their children clinging closer. We had no idea, Jennifer said softly. We thought it was all legitimate. I nodded, my throat tight. It's not your fault, I said, stepping back. I need to make some calls. In my car, parked at a nearby public beach access, I broke down. Sobs racked my body as the weight of the betrayal sank in. My parents, Margaret and David, the people who'd raised me, had stolen my dream. The house I'd built with every spare dollar, every late night, every ounce of my heart, was gone. How long had they planned this? How could they mimic my signature so convincingly? I opened my journal app and recorded again, my voice shaking. They took everything. I whispered. My sanctuary, my proof that I could do this. Why? The question hung in the air, unanswered. I checked into a small motel in Tahoe, its dated decor a stark contrast to the home I'd lost. The clerk gave me a sympathetic look as I requested a room for an indefinite stay. Alone in the dim light, I called Rachel again, sending her photos of the documents the Thompsons had shown me. "This is fraud," she said, her voice sharp with conviction. "We'll figure this out, Sarah. I promise." As I waited for her guidance, I replayed my recordings, each word a reminder of what was at stake. I wasn't just fighting for a house, I was fighting for my right to my own life, my own choices. If you've ever been betrayed by those you trusted most, you know that gut-wrenching pain. But in that motel room, amidst the tears, a spark of resolve ignited. I'd built that house once. I'd find a way to reclaim what was mine, no matter what it took. Betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from the people who raised you, the ones who were supposed to protect your dreams, not steal them. For me, Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect in Seattle, that truth hit hardest in my parents' Denver living room, where I confronted the unthinkable. My mother, Margaret, and father, David, had forged my signature to sell my Lake Tahoe home, the sanctuary I'd built with a decade of sacrifice. Standing there, facing their justifications and my brother Ethan's shock, I felt the foundation of my family crumble. But in that wreckage, I glimpsed something unexpected, a chance to redefine what family means and to reclaim my strength. If you've ever stood up to those who hurt you, knowing the truth might break your heart but set you free, this part of my story might resonate. Let me take you into that raw, painful moment when I faced the truth and found the courage to keep going. The drive from Lake Tahoe to Denver was a blur, 6 hours of rehearsing what I'd say, my hands gripping the steering wheel as my recorded thoughts played on a loop in the car. They stole my house. I'd said into my phone the night before, my voice trembling with disbelief. My parents. How could they? The question haunted me, but I knew answers wouldn't come from a motel room in Tahoe. I needed to see their faces, to hear their excuses, to understand why they'd betrayed me. As I pulled into their suburban Denver neighborhood, the familiar sight of neatly trimmed lawns and colonial-style homes felt like a lie. Their house, with its fresh gray paint and manicured shrubs, looked as solid as ever, but I knew something inside was broken. I rang the doorbell, the same chime I'd heard as a child, and my mother opened the door, her smile practiced but faltering. "Sarah, what a surprise," she said, her voice too bright. "We weren't expecting you." She stepped back, calling, "David, Sarah's here." My father emerged from his study, his usual calm demeanor cracking when he saw my expression. They knew. I could see it in the way my mother's hands fluttered, the way my father avoided my gaze. "Let's sit in the living room," my mother suggested, her hostess tone in place. "I'll make tea." I stayed rooted in the entryway. "I'm not here for tea," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "I'm here about my Lake Tahoe house." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face hardened, her lips a thin line, while my father stared at the floor. I pulled out the copied documents the Thompsons, the new owners, had shown me, closing papers with my forged signature, a power of attorney I'd never signed. "Care to explain?" I asked, placing them on the hall table. My father cleared his throat, but my mother spoke first, her voice cold. "Don't be dramatic, Sarah. That house was a financial burden. We did what was best." "Best for whom?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I kept my voice even. "You forged my signature. You sold my house for $700,000. My house that I built with my own money. Where is it?" My mother's eyes narrowed, the mask of warmth gone. "Your brother needed help," she said. "Ethan's starting a coffee shop, a real business this time. We needed the money to secure his future." The words landed like a punch. Ethan. Always Ethan, their golden child, whose every failure they'd funded while dismissing my successes. "So you stole from me," I said, my voice rising. "That house was paid for. No mortgage, no debt. It was mine." My father finally spoke, his voice low. "Sarah, the taxes, the maintenance, it was too much for you." I laughed, a bitter sound. "I paid those taxes. I managed everything. You had no right." Before they could respond, the front door opened, and Ethan walked in, his face lighting up until he saw the tension. "Sis, what's going on?" he asked, looking between us. "Ask them," I said, my voice shaking. "Ask about the money for your coffee shop." Ethan's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "They said it was from their savings." I pointed to the documents. "They sold my Tahoe house, forged my signature on a power of attorney. That's your funding." The color drained from Ethan's face. "No," he said, turning to our parents. "Tell me that's not true." My mother stood taller, unapologetic. "We did what was necessary for this family," she said. "Sarah has her career, her Seattle apartment. She didn't need that house draining her." Ethan's voice cracked. "You stole from her? For me? How could you think I'd want that?" For the first time, I saw something in Ethan I hadn't expected: genuine horror. A crack in the facade of the spoiled son. My father's eyes glistened with what might have been regret. "We thought we were helping both of you," he said weakly. "Helping?" I snapped. "You betrayed me. You took the one thing I built for myself." I pulled out my phone, my finger hovering over the call button for the police. "I'm reporting this," I said. My mother's face twisted. "Sarah, don't tear this family apart over a vacation home." The word vacation stung, reducing my sanctuary to a triviality. "It wasn't just a house," I said, my voice breaking. "It was my dream, my proof I could do something extraordinary. You stole that." Ethan stepped forward, his hands raised. "Sis, wait, I didn't know. I'll walk away from the coffee shop. We'll fix this." His eyes were earnest, and for the first time I believed him. He wasn't part of this. Desperate to process the moment, I opened my journal app and recorded, my voice barely steady. "They admitted it," I whispered. "My own parents. They think they had the right." The act of speaking, even to my phone, was a lifeline. A way to anchor myself in the truth. I looked at Ethan, his face a mirror of my own shock, and realized he was as much a victim of their manipulation as I was, just in a different way. They'd enabled his failures, just as they'd undermined my successes, keeping us both tethered to their control. I tried one last time to understand. "Why?" I asked my mother. "Why go this far?" Her response was chilling. "You've always been selfish, Sarah, hoarding your money in that house while your brother needed help." Selfish. The word echoed years of their criticism. Years of being told my dreams were impractical, my hard work meaningless. I turned to leave, my voice cold. "This isn't over. I'll pursue every legal option I have." As I walked out, my legs barely held me, but I felt a shift inside, a resolve to fight, not just for my house, but for my right to my own life. In my car, I played back my recording, the raw pain in my voice a reminder of what was at stake. I drove to a nearby coffee shop, where I met Ethan later that evening. Away from our parents' house. He looked wrecked, his usual charm replaced by guilt. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," he said. "I told them I'm done with their money. I didn't sign up for this." We talked for hours, and I saw a side of him I'd forgotten: the brother who'd once drawn silly cartoons with me as kids. He suggested we try family mediation, a last-ditch effort to understand our parents' actions. We attended a session the next day, but it was a disaster. My mother doubled down, calling my house a luxury I didn't need, while my father sat silent. Ethan walked out with me, his voice firm. "They're wrong, Sarah. I'm with you." That night, back in my motel, I recorded again. "Ethan's not like them," I said. "There's hope there." The confrontation had broken something, but it had also revealed a truth. Family isn't defined by blood, but by respect. Ethan's choice to stand with me, however small, was a lifeline. If you've ever faced the people who hurt you, you know how raw that moment feels. But in that rawness, I found strength. I wasn't alone. With Rachel's legal help and Ethan's unexpected support, I was ready to fight for Justicino, just for my house, but for the life I'd built and the person I'd become. There's a moment when the fog of betrayal begins to clear, and you realize the fight isn't just about reclaiming what was stolen, it's about reclaiming yourself. For me, Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect in Seattle, that moment came in the days after learning my parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, had forged my signature to sell my Lake Tahoe home. Sitting in a dingy motel room, staring at the cracked ceiling. I felt the weight of their deception, but also a spark of resolve. With my friend Rachel, a real estate attorney in Portland, by my side, I began to unravel the truth, uncovering not just the mechanics of their fraud, but a deeper history of lies that reshaped how I saw my family. If you've ever had to dig for answers after a betrayal, knowing each truth might hurt but also set you free, this part of my story might speak to you. Let me take you through the legal battle I embarked on and the shocking discoveries that changed everything. The morning after confronting my parents in their Denver home, I woke in the Tahoe motel, my eyes gritty from sleeplessness. The pain of their betrayal selling my dream home for $700,000, a fraction of its true value, felt like a wound that wouldn't close. But I wasn't alone. Rachel's voice over the phone was a lifeline, sharp and focused. "Sarah, this is serious fraud," she said, her attorney mode in full force. "Send me those documents from the Thompsons. We're going to fight this." I emailed her photos of the closing papers and the forged power of attorney, my hands still shaking. To cope, I opened my journal app and recorded my thoughts, a habit that had become my anchor. "I'm not giving up," I said into my phone, my voice steadier than I felt. "This house was mine. I'll get justice." Rachel's first call back came that afternoon, her tone urgent. "Sarah, do you remember the title insurance we got when you bought the Tahoe land 10 years ago?" I frowned, the memory vague amidst the chaos of that purchase. "Barely," I admitted. "You insisted on it. Said it was extra protection." She laughed. A rare sound in those dark days. "Good thing you listened. That policy has fraud and forgery coverage. This could be our way to make you whole." My heart skipped. A flicker of hope pierced the despair. Rachel explained that the policy, a precaution I'd thought unnecessary at the time, could cover losses from fraudulent transactions, potentially at the property's current market value. "I'm digging into it," she said. "But we need to act fast." To better understand my rights, I enrolled in a short online course on real estate law, something Rachel recommended to empower myself. Late nights in the motel, I pored over lessons on property fraud, title disputes, and legal recourse, my laptop screen glowing in the dim room. The knowledge was a shield, helping me feel less like a victim and more like a fighter. "I'm learning how to protect what's mine," I recorded in my journal app. "No one can take that from me again." The course wasn't just about facts. It was about reclaiming control, about refusing to let my parents' actions appraiser evaluate the Tahoe property, she said. "With the recent commercial rezoning around the lake, it's worth $2 million, not the $700,000 your parents got." I gasped, the number staggering. My house, my sanctuary, had tripled in value, and my parents had sold it for a pittance. The injustice burned, but the insurance policy meant I could be compensated for the full market value. "They're launching a fraud investigation," Rachel added. "Your parents, the notary, the title company, they're all on the hook." For the first time, I felt a surge of power. This wasn't just about money. It was about holding those responsible accountable. As the legal wheels turned, I dug deeper into my parents' actions, driven by a need to understand why. Ethan, my brother, called me one evening, his voice heavy with guilt. "Sarah, I found something," he said. In Dad's study, there were casino receipts, from Vegas and Atlantic City, big ones. My stomach dropped. I'd always wondered about their frequent weekend trips, their vague explanations for financial strain despite their stable incomes. "They've got a gambling problem," Ethan said. "I think that's why they needed the money so badly." The pieces clicked together, their sudden interest in my Tahoe property's value, their desperation to fund Ethan's latest venture. A coffee shop. But there was more. Ethan hesitated, then continued. "I also found papers about Grandma's art collection. Our grandmother, who'd passed when I was a teenager, had left behind a small but valuable set of paintings, meant to be split between Ethan and me when we turned 30. Mom told us she sold them for family expenses," Ethan said. "But the papers show she kept the money. They never told us." The betrayal deepened. My parents hadn't just stolen my house. They'd been manipulating our family's finances for years, lying about inheritances, siphoning off what wasn't theirs. I recorded my reaction that night, my voice thick with grief. "It's not just the house," I said. "It's a lifetime of lies. How could I not see it?" The legal process gained momentum. Rachel filed a police report for forgery and fraud, notifying the title company and the real estate agents involved in the sale. The insurance company's investigator, Mark Reynolds, was methodical, reviewing every document from my original land purchase to the fraudulent sale. "This is one of the clearest cases of title fraud I've seen," he told me over a call. His voice calm but firm. "Your documentation is impeccable, Sarah. Most people don't keep records like you do." My architectural training, with its obsessive attention to detail, had paid off. Every receipt, every tax payment, every blueprint was filed meticulously, now serving as evidence in my fight. But the fight wasn't just legal, it was emotional. Each new discovery about my parents' deception felt like a fresh wound. The notary who'd certified the forged power of attorney was a friend from my mother's gambling support group, a connection that suggested premeditation. The title company had failed to verify the document properly, rushing the sale. The real estate agent had ignored red flags, eager for a quick commission. "This was a coordinated effort," Rachel said, her voice grim. "Your parents didn't do this alone." I recorded my thoughts that night, my voice a mix of anger and resolve. "They thought they could erase my dream," I said, "but they underestimated me." The emotional toll was heavy, but I found strength in unexpected places. Ethan, who'd walked away from the coffee shop deal, started texting me daily, checking in. "I'm so sorry, sis," he wrote one night. "I'm with you, whatever it takes." His support, however new, was a lifeline. I also leaned on my Tahoe community, like Linda Carter, my neighbor, who called to offer her support. "I'll testify if you need me," she said. "That house was yours, Sarah." The truth hurts most. As the insurance company prepared to compensate me, I felt a shift. The $2 million valuation wasn't just about money, it was validation that my dream had been worth something, that my years of sacrifice had built something extraordinary. I recorded one last thought before bed, my voice softer now. "I'm not just fighting for a house," I said. "I'm fighting for who I am." If you've ever had to uncover painful truths to reclaim your life, you know it's a battle that tests your core. But in that battle, I was finding my strength, my voice, and a path forward one truth at a time. Sometimes the hardest choices aren't about fighting for what's yours, but about letting go for the sake of something greater. For me, Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect in Seattle, that choice came when I decided not to reclaim my Lake Tahoe home, the sanctuary my parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, had stolen from me through a forged signature. The house, sold to the Thompson family without my consent, wasn't just a structure, it was a decade of my heart, my savings, my dreams. Yet, learning about the Thompsons, especially their daughter Lily, who relied on the lake for her therapy, shifted something in me. Choosing compassion over possession was painful, but it became a cornerstone of my healing, a reminder that my worth wasn't tied to a place, but to the person I chose to be. If you've ever had to let go of something you love to protect others, this part of my story might touch your heart. Let me share the moment I chose to walk away from my house, and why it felt like the truest victory of all. The weeks following the discovery of my parents' fraud were a whirlwind of legal meetings and emotional turmoil. Rachel, my real estate attorney friend in Portland, was relentless, piecing together the case with the insurance company, who'd valued my Tahoe property at $2 million due to recent commercial rezoning. The forged power of attorney, the notary's complicity, the title company's negligence, it was all coming to light. But amidst the legal chaos, one question haunted me. What about the Thompsons? Michael and Jennifer Thompson, along with their 2 children, had bought my house in good faith, believing the sale was legitimate. They weren't the villains. They were victims of my parents' deception, just like me. Rachel laid out my options during a late-night call. "We can petition to void the sale," she said. "It's fraud, so you have a strong case. But it would mean displacing the Thompsons, and it could take years in court." I sat in my temporary Seattle apartment, a stark contrast to the warmth of my Tahoe home, and pictured the Thompsons. Linda Carter, my Tahoe neighbor, had mentioned their daughter, Lily, a 12-year-old with cerebral palsy who used the lake for water therapy. The image of a child finding relief in the same waters I'd cherished hit me hard. My house wasn't just a home to them, it was a lifeline. Could I take that away? I recorded my thoughts in my journal app, my voice heavy. I want my house back, I said. But not if it hurts a family who didn't do anything wrong. Lily needs that lake. What kind of person would I be if I took it from her? To grapple with the decision, I wrote a letter to the Thompsons, not expecting a response. I poured out my story, the years of saving, the weekends building, the shock of the betrayal. I don't blame you, I wrote. You're living in the home I dreamed of. But I need you to know what it meant to me. A week later, Jennifer Thompson replied, her handwritten note trembling with empathy. Dear Sarah, she began. We're heartbroken to learn what happened. Your home is beautiful, and it's changed our lives, especially for Lily. Her therapy in the lake has given her strength we never thought possible. We're so sorry for your loss. Enclosed was a photo of Lily, smiling in the water, her eyes bright with joy. That photo broke something in me, but it also clarified my path. I met Rachel at her Portland office to discuss next steps. If we fight for the house, we could win, she said, her eyes searching mine. But it would uproot the Thompsons, and there's no guarantee you'd get it back quickly. I thought of Lily, of the moving trucks I'd seen in my driveway, of the Thompsons' furniture, filling the great room I'd designed. My house was theirs now, woven into their lives. I can't do it, I said, my voice steady despite the ache. I won't take their home from them. Let's pursue financial restitution instead. Rachel nodded, pride in her eyes. That's a brave choice, Sarah. It's not easy, but it's right. The decision wasn't just about the Thompsons. It was about who I wanted to be. My parents had tried to reduce my dream to a commodity, something to be sold for their own gain. By choosing not to fight for the physical house, I was reclaiming its deeper meaning, my resilience, my creativity, my capacity for compassion. I recorded my thoughts that night, my voice soft but firm. Letting go doesn't mean giving up, I said. It means choosing what matters more. Lily's smile matters. The Thompsons' peace matters. I'll find another way to heal. To process the emotional weight, I leaned on my Tahoe community. Linda Carter invited me for coffee, her warmth a reminder of the connections I'd built. You're doing the right thing, she said, her hand on mine. That house is helping that little girl. You gave her that. Her words eased the ache, reminding me that my dream had ripple effects beyond my own life. I also started attending a support group for people who'd experienced family betrayal, recommended by a therapist I'd begun seeing. Sharing my story with others who'd been hurt by those they trusted helped me feel less alone. It's not just the loss, I told the group one evening. It's knowing they didn't value what I built. A woman nodded, her eyes kind. But you still value it, Sarah. That's what they can't take. Ethan, my brother, was another unexpected anchor. He'd walked away from the coffee shop deal funded by the fraudulent sale, and our conversations grew deeper. I'm proud of you, he said over the phone from Denver. Not fighting for the house, that's strength. His support, so new after years of distance, felt like a bridge to a different kind of family. I encouraged him to join me in the support group, but he wasn't ready. Instead, he sent me a sketch he'd drawn, a simple cabin by a lake, a nod to the dreams we'd shared as kids. Maybe we'll build something together someday, he wrote. That sketch, taped to my apartment wall, was a reminder that healing could come from unexpected places. The legal path forward focused on restitution. Rachel worked with the insurance company to pursue my parents, the notary, and the title company for the $2 million market value. The Thompsons, unaware of the fraud until I confronted them, were protected as innocent purchasers. But their role in my decision weighed heavily. Jennifer's letter had included an invitation to visit, but I wasn't ready. Instead, I wrote back, thanking them for their kindness and wishing Lily strength. Your daughter's joy is part of my house's story now, I wrote. That's enough for me. Their reply, filled with gratitude, arrived days later, a small balm for the wound. Choosing not to reclaim the house didn't erase the pain. Some nights, I'd wake reaching for my Tahoe keys, forgetting they'd never open that door again. But the decision freed me in ways I hadn't expected. It was a declaration that my worth wasn't tied to a place, but to my ability to choose compassion over anger, to build a legacy of kindness despite betrayal. I recorded one final thought before moving forward. "This isn't the end," I said. "It's a new beginning. I'll build again not just a house, but a life that reflects who I am." If you've ever let go of something precious to protect others, you know it's a choice that reshapes you. For me, it was a turning point. A moment when I chose to honor the spirit of my Tahoe home by letting it serve a greater purpose. The Thompsons' gratitude, Lily's smile, and my own resolve became the foundation for what came next: to fight for justice. Not to reclaim a house, but to rebuild a life stronger than the one I'd lost. Justice has a way of arriving quietly, not with fanfare, but with a weight that shifts the ground beneath you. For me, Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect in Seattle, justice came in the form of a $2 million check from an insurance company, compensation for the Lake Tahoe home my parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, stole from me by forging my signature. That money was more than a number, it was validation of my decade-long dream, a reckoning for those who betrayed me, and a bittersweet reminder of the family I'd lost. As the legal consequences unfolded, stripping my parents of their home, savings, and reputation, I wrestled with a tangle of emotions: relief, guilt, and a fierce resolve to build something new from the ashes. If you've ever faced the aftermath of betrayal, where victory feels heavy and healing feels far, this part of my story might resonate. Let me take you through the moment justice was served and the complex truths it revealed. The legal battle that followed my parents' fraud was relentless, but Rachel, my real estate attorney friend in Portland, was a force of nature. Armed with the forged power of attorney, the Thompsons' closing documents, and my meticulous records, she worked with the insurance company to build an airtight case. The title insurance policy I'd purchased a decade ago, at Rachel's insistence, proved to be my salvation. It covered losses from fraud, and with Lake Tahoe's recent commercial rezoning, the property's market value had soared to $2 million, nearly 3 times the $700,000 my parents had sold it for. When the insurance investigator, Mark Reynolds, called to confirm the payout, his voice was matter of fact. But to me, it was a lifeline. "We'll issue a check for $2 million, he said, "and we'll pursue recovery from all responsible parties: your parents, the notary, the title company, the real estate agents." I was in my temporary Seattle apartment when the check arrived, the weight of it surreal in my hands. $2 million. It was more than I'd ever imagined recovering, a sum that could reshape my future. But as I stared at the numbers, tears fell not just for the victory, but for the loss they represented. My Tahoe home, with its lake views and handcrafted fireplace, was gone, living on in the lives of the Thompson family, whose daughter Lily used the lake for her therapy. I'd chosen not to fight for the house to protect them, but the payout didn't erase the ache. I recorded my thoughts in my journal app, my voice trembling. "This money is justice," I said, "but it's not my house. It's not my dream. Still, it's a chance to start over." The insurance company moved swiftly to hold the guilty accountable. My parents, the architects of the fraud, faced the brunt of the consequences. Mark explained that the company would seek full recovery of the $2 million, targeting my parents' assets, their Denver home, their investment accounts, most of my father's pension. The notary, who'd falsely certified the power of attorney, lost her license and faced criminal charges. The title company and real estate agents, who'd failed to verify the documents, paid hefty penalties and overhauled their procedures. But it was my parents' downfall that hit hardest. They'd moved to a small apartment in Boise, Idaho, their once comfortable life reduced to bare essentials. The community they'd prided themselves on, church groups, neighborhood councils, sterned away, their reputation in tatters. I learned the details from Rachel, who'd been tracking the legal fallout. "They're financially ruined," she said over coffee in Portland. Their attorney tried to negotiate, but the evidence was overwhelming. Ethan, my brother, filled in more gaps. He'd cut contact with our parents after learning they'd funded his coffee shop with my stolen money, but he heard updates through relatives. "They're blaming everyone but themselves," he told me over the phone, his voice heavy. "Mom says you're tearing the family apart. Dad just sounds broken." The words stirred a mix of emotions: anger at their refusal to take responsibility, pity for their self-inflicted ruin, and a lingering guilt I couldn't shake. They were still my parents, the ones who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd sat in the audience at my college graduation. Their betrayal didn't erase those memories, but it tainted them. To make sense of it all, I leaned on my support group for survivors of family betrayal. One evening, I shared my conflicted feelings. I wanted justice, I said, my voice catching. But seeing them lose everything hurts in a way I didn't expect. A man in the group nodded. It's not about wanting them to suffer, he said. It's about them facing the consequences of their choices. His words reframed my guilt. I wasn't punishing my parents, I was protecting myself, ensuring their actions had weight. To give back, I donated a portion of the insurance money to a local organization that helped victims of real estate fraud, a way to transform my pain into purpose. This is for people like me, I recorded in my journal app. No one should lose their home like I did. Ethan's role in the aftermath was a quiet redemption. He'd walked away from the coffee shop deal and taken a job at a Denver art gallery, his creativity finding a new outlet. One day, he sent me a small painting of Lake Tahoe, his own work. I know it's not the same, he wrote, but I wanted you to have this. The gesture, simple but heartfelt, strengthened the bond we were rebuilding. You're doing the right thing, he told me during a call. Not just with the Thompsons, but with all of it. I'm proud of you, sis. His words, so rare in our shared history, were a balm, a reminder that family could be chosen, not just inherited. The Thompsons, too, played a role in my healing. Jennifer Thompson sent another letter, thanking me for not pursuing the house. Lily's thriving, she wrote. The lake has given her strength, and we know that's because of you. Her words reinforced my decision, but they also stirred a longing for the home I'd lost. To honor that loss, I started volunteering with a Seattle nonprofit that built accessible homes for families with special needs, inspired by Lily's story. Each project designing ramps, wide doorways, therapy spaces felt like a continuation of my Tahoe dream, a way to keep its spirit alive. The legal consequences for my parents weren't just financial. The insurance company's investigation, bolstered by Ethan's evidence of their gambling debts and past deceptions like selling our grandmother's paintings painted a picture of habitual fraud. This wasn't a one-time thing, Mark told me. Your parents have a pattern. The revelation should have brought satisfaction, but it deepened my sorrow. Their desperation, fueled by addiction, had blinded them to the harm they caused. I recorded my thoughts that night, my voice soft. They broke my trust, I said. But they're broken too. I can't fix them, but I can rebuild me. The $2 million gave me financial security, a chance to start anew. But the true victory was emotional knowing I'd faced betrayal and chosen integrity. I'd protected the Thompsons, supported Ethan, and given back to others, turning a personal loss into a broader good. My parents' consequences were their own, a mirror of their choices. If you've ever sought justice, you know it's rarely clean or simple. For me, it was a path to clarity, a way to honor the woman who built that Tahoe home, and the one who'd build again. Not with wood and glass, but with courage, compassion, and an unyielding belief in her own worth. Healing doesn't happen in a straight line. It's a winding path, full of stumbles and small victories, where every step forward feels like a reclamation of who you are. For me, Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect in Seattle, healing began in the aftermath of an unthinkable betrayal me parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, forging my signature to sell my Lake Tahoe home, the dream I'd built over a decade. The $2 million insurance payout was a financial lifeline, but it couldn't fill the void left by that loss. Yet from that void, I forged a new life, a new home, a new purpose, a renewed bond with my brother Ethan, and a deeper understanding of myself through therapy and community. If you've ever had to rebuild after a heartbreak, knowing the scars remain but the future is yours to shape, this part of my story might light your way. Let me share how I found my footing again, turning pain into possibility. The first step was finding a place to call home. After months in temporary rentals, I settled on a spacious apartment in Seattle's Belltown neighborhood, overlooking Puget Sound. The view wasn't Lake Tahoe's crystal waters, but the gentle waves and city lights offered a different kind of peace. The apartment, with its high ceilings and exposed brick, felt like a canvas for a new chapter. I furnished it deliberately soft blues to echo the water, a drafting table for my sketches, a cozy armchair for quiet evenings. Standing on the balcony that first night, the sea air cool against my skin, I recorded my thoughts in my journal app. "This isn't Tahoe," I said, my voice soft but steady. "But it's mine, a place to start again." The apartment wasn't just a home. It was a declaration of resilience, proof I could create beauty anywhere. Financially, the insurance money was transformative. With guidance from a fiduciary advisor, I invested wisely, securing a future I'd never dared imagine in my 30s. But I didn't want the money to sit idle. Inspired by my ordeal, I launched a side business consulting on secure property investments and fraud prevention. My first clients were local homeowners, nervous about title scams after hearing my story. "You turned a nightmare into expertise," one client said, shaking my hand after a session. The work wasn't just about income, it was about empowering others to protect what mattered. I started a podcast, Rebuilding Trust, sharing my journey and interviewing others who'd overcome betrayal. Each episode, recorded in my apartment with Puget Sound as my backdrop, was a step toward healing. "This is for anyone who's been hurt," I said in my first episode. "You're not alone, and you're stronger than you know." Rebuilding my relationship with Ethan was another cornerstone. After he rejected our parents' tainted money and walked away from his coffee shop venture, he found work at a Denver art gallery, his creativity blooming in a way I hadn't seen before. I offered him a loan to start an interior design business. Not as a handout, but as a structured investment with clear terms. "This is a partnership," I told him over coffee in Seattle, handing him the contract. "I believe in you, Ethan." His eyes shone with gratitude, and for the first time we felt like equals, not competitors shaped by our parents' favoritism. He sent me a design proposal for my apartment, a vibrant accent wall inspired by Tahoe's sunsets. "A piece of your dreams, sis," he wrote. That wall, painted in warm golds and reds, became a daily reminder of our new bond. Therapy was essential to my recovery. I'd started seeing a counselor, Dr. Ellis, shortly after the betrayal, and her insights helped me untangle the pain. "Your parents saw your resources as theirs to control," she said during one session, her voice gentle but firm. "Their betrayal wasn't about you, was about their own flaws." The words shifted something in me, easing the self-doubt that had lingered since childhood. I'd always felt I wasn't enough for them. But Dr. Ellis helped me see their actions as a reflection of their limitations, not mine. Through therapy, I learned to set boundaries, not just with my parents who remained in Boise, cut off by a no-contact order, but with others in my life. "You're rewriting your story, Doctor," Ellis said, smiling. "And it's a powerful one." Community became my lifeline. The support group for betrayal survivors, where I'd first shared my story, grew into a second family. We met weekly in a Seattle community center, swapping stories of loss and resilience. "I thought I'd never trust again," one woman said, her voice echoing my own fears. "But being here, I'm learning." I shared my podcast with the group, and their feedback, raw, honest, hopeful, shaped its direction. One evening, I organized a group outing to a local I felt a surge of pride, not just for him, but for the life I was building, one connection at a time. Volunteering with the nonprofit for accessible homes, inspired by Lily Thompson's story, gave my healing purpose. Designing therapy spaces for families with special needs felt like an extension of my Tahoe dream, a way to create sanctuaries for others. During one project, I met a mother whose son used a wheelchair. "This ramp means he can come home," she said, tears in her eyes. Her gratitude healed a piece of me, reminding me that my skills could still make a difference. I recorded my thoughts after that day, my voice bright. "I lost one home," I said, "but I'm helping build others. That's my legacy now." My parents' absence was a quiet ache. Distant relatives urged me to reconcile, invoking family unity. "They're struggling in Boise," an aunt said over the phone. "Can't you forgive them?" But forgiveness, I'd learned, didn't mean reopening wounds. Dr. Ellis taught me that forgiving was for my peace, not their redemption. I wished them well, but the no-contact order stood, a boundary that protected my growth. Ethan, too, kept his distance, focusing on his new business. Our shared decision to redefine family based on respect, not obligation, was a quiet revolution. The podcast grew, attracting listeners nationwide. Messages poured in from people who'd faced similar betrayal, stolen inheritances, broken trusts. "Your story gave me courage," one wrote. I started hosting live Q&A sessions, connecting with listeners in real time. "How do you trust again?" a young woman asked during one session. "Start with yourself," I said. "Trust your strength, your instincts. The rest will follow." The words weren't just for her. They were for me, a mantra for the life I was crafting. Some days, the loss of Tahoe still stung. I'd wake reaching for keys that no longer fit, or dream of the lake's stillness, only to wake in Seattle's hum. But those moments grew rarer, outnumbered by days of purpose. I sketched plans for a new vacation home, this time in the mountains near Leavenworth, Washington, with security measures reflecting my hard-won wisdom. The act of sketching lines forming walls, windows, dreams was healing, a reminder that my creativity was unbroken. Standing in my Belltown apartment, the accent wall glowing in the evening light, I recorded a podcast intro. "This is Sarah Mitchell," I said, my voice clear. "I lost my dream home, but I found something greater myself." Healing wasn't about erasing the past. It was about weaving it into a stronger, wiser present. If you're rebuilding after a betrayal, know this. Your scars are proof of your strength, and your future is a canvas only you can paint. For me, that canvas was vibrant, filled with new homes, new bonds, and a voice that refused to be silenced. Every loss carries a lesson, a quiet gift hidden in the pain, waiting for you to uncover it. For me, Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect in Seattle, the loss of my Lake Tahoe home stolen by my parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, through a forged signature taught me more about resilience, boundaries, and the true meaning of home than I ever expected. The $2 million insurance payout was a financial victory, but the real triumph was the wisdom I gained, the life I rebuilt, and the hope I now share with others. As I stand at the threshold of a new dream, sketching plans for a mountain retreat in Aspen, Colorado, I'm not just rebuilding a house, I'm building a future defined by my own terms. If you've ever faced betrayal and wondered how to move forward, this part of my story is for you. Let me share the lessons that carried me through, and the vision that lights my path ahead. Looking back, the betrayal was an earthquake, shaking the foundations of everything I thought I knew. My parents' action selling my home for $700,000. A fraction of its $2 million value weren't just a theft of property. They were a theft of trust, a violation of the love I'd assumed was unconditional. It's not about avoiding pain, but about what you build from it. The Tahoe house was my dream, built with 10 years of sacrifice, but its loss showed me I could create beauty anywhere. In my Seattle apartment, with its Puget Sound views, I found new inspiration. On my drafting table, I began sketching a cabin for Aspen, its design echoing Tahoe's warmth but fortified with modern security, a testament to my hard-won wisdom. I'm not starting over. I recorded in my journal app, my voice steady. I'm building on what I've learned. The second lesson was about boundaries. My parents saw my achievements as theirs to control, a mindset rooted in their own flaws, gambling debts, lies about our grandmother's paintings, a lifetime of favoring my brother Ethan. Therapy with Dr. Ellis helped me see that their betrayal wasn't my failure, but theirs. "You don't owe them your forgiveness," she said, her words freeing me. I maintained the no-contact order with Margaret and David, now living in Boise, not out of anger, but to protect my peace. With Ethan, I set different boundaries, offering him a loan for his interior design business with clear terms. "This is trust with structure," I told him, smiling. His success, marked by timely repayments and vibrant designs, showed me that family could be redefined through respect, not obligation. "Boundaries aren't walls," I said on my podcast. "Rebuilding trust. They're bridges to healthier connections." The third lesson was about the true value of home. My Tahoe house wasn't just wood and glass. It was a symbol of my creativity, my defiance against doubt. Losing it taught me that home is wherever you bring your heart. My Belltown apartment, with Ethan's sunset-inspired accent wall, became a sanctuary. Volunteering to design accessible homes for families like the Thompsons, whose daughter Lily thrived in my former house, extended that sense of home to others. "You gave us more than a house," a mother told me, her son's wheelchair gliding smoothly on a ramp I'd designed. That moment, recorded in my journal app, was a revelation. "Home is what you create for yourself and others," I said. "No one can steal that." Community was my fourth lesson. The betrayal isolated me, but my support group for survivors of family betrayal became a lifeline. Sharing stories with people who'd faced similar pain-stolen inheritances, broken promises normalized my grief. "You're not alone," a group member said, her hand on mine. I started hosting community workshops on financial security, teaching young homeowners how to protect against fraud. At one session, a 20-something thanked me, saying, "I'm checking my title because of you." The workshops, paired with my podcast's growing audience, turned my story into a beacon for others. "Your pain can become your purpose," I told listeners during a live Q&A, my voice strong. "Share your story, it matters." The final lesson was about hope. The betrayal could have hardened me, but instead it opened my heart. The Thompsons' gratitude, expressed in letters about Lily's progress, reminded me that my choice to let them keep the house had ripple effects. Linda Carter, my Tahoe neighbor, sent me photos of the lake, writing, "It's still your place in spirit." Ethan's growth, from a gallery job to a thriving business, showed me redemption was possible. Even my parents' downfall, though painful, was a consequence of their choices, not mine. "Hope isn't naive," I recorded one evening, Puget Sound sparkling outside. "It's choosing to believe in tomorrow no matter what yesterday took." My future is taking shape, literally and figuratively. The Aspen cabin, still in sketches, is more than a house, it's a promise to myself. Its open layout mirrors Tahoe's, but with smart locks and a fortified title reflecting lessons learned. I've hired a security consultant to ensure no one can tamper with my dream again. "This is my sanctuary 2.0, I told Rachel over dinner in Portland, laughing for the first time in months. She raised her glass. "To new beginnings, Sarah. The cabin isn't about replacing Tahoe. It's about honoring its spirit while embracing what's next." Professionally, my consulting business is thriving. My firm in Seattle offered me a partnership track, recognizing my Tahoe design's 400% appreciation as proof of my vision. I'm planning a national speaking tour, sharing fraud prevention strategies at real estate conferences. "Your story saves people," a conference organizer said, booking me for a keynote. The podcast, now with thousands of listeners, has become a platform for change, sparking conversations about trust and resilience. "What's your story?" I ask listeners, inviting them to share. Their responses, raw, brave, hopeful, remind me why I keep going. Personally, I'm learning to trust again, not blindly, but wisely. Ethan and I talk weekly, planning a joint project, a community art space in Denver, blending his designs with my architecture. Friends from my support group join me for hikes in the Cascades, their laughter filling the silence once occupied by grief. I'm even dating, cautiously, letting connections grow organically. "Trust is a muscle," Dr. Ellis said. "You're strengthening it every day." Her words guide me, a reminder that healing is active, not passive. As the one-year anniversary of the betrayal approaches, I'm planning a quiet celebration in my apartment, inviting Ethan, Rachel, and a few close friends. This isn't about loss, I'll say, raising a glass. It's about what I've gained: strength, clarity, a life I chose. The evening will end on my balcony, Puget Sound shimmering below, where I'll record a podcast episode. "If you're hurting, keep going," I'll say. "Your story isn't over. The best chapters are the ones you write yourself." To those listening, I have a request. Share your story. Have you faced betrayal and found a way forward? Your words could light someone else's path. Subscribe to Rebuilding Trust. Leave a comment. Let's build a community of resilience. My Tahoe home is gone, but its lessons live in every sketch, every workshop, every connection I make. If you're on this journey, know this: your deepest wounds can become your greatest strengths. Keep dreaming, keep building, and never let anyone dim your light. For me, the future is Aspen, a new sanctuary, and a life unbound by the pasta life I'm ready to live, fully, fiercely, freely. My name is Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old architect from Seattle. and my story is one of dreams built, dreams stolen, and dreams reborn. It began in the quiet suburbs of Denver, where I grew up sketching dream homes in secret. My passion for architecture dismissed by my parents, Margaret and David Mitchell, as impractical. They favored my younger brother, Ethan, excusing his string of failed ventures while urging me to choose a safer path. But I refused to let their doubts define me. With relentless determination, I worked through college, saved every penny, and at 29 bought 3 acres on the north shore of Lake Tahoe, Nevada. For 5 years, I poured my heart into building a home there, a sanctuary of floor-to-ceiling windows, a stone fireplace, and a wraparound deck, each detail a testament to my resilience. That house wasn't just a place. It was my proof that I could create something extraordinary, despite the voices that said I couldn't. But dreams, I learned, are fragile. One Tuesday afternoon, a call from my Tahoe neighbor, Linda Carter, shattered my world. My home had been sold to the Thompson family, Michael, Jennifer, and their children, including 12-year-old Lily, who used the lake for her therapy. The documents bore my signature, but I'd never signed them. The truth was unthinkable. My parents had forged a power of attorney, sold my house for $700,000, a fraction of its $2 million value, and used the money to fund Ethan's latest venture, a coffee shop he knew nothing about. The betrayal cut deeper than the loss of property. It was a violation of trust, a rejection of everything I'd worked for. I drove to Tahoe, confronted the Thompsons, and saw the forged papers, my heart breaking as I realized my parents had orchestrated it all during a work trip when I was unreachable. The confrontation in Denver was raw. My mother's cold justification. We did what was best for the family, and my father's weak excuses revealed a lifetime of manipulation. Ethan, shocked to learn the truth, rejected the tainted money, his remorse a flicker of hope in the darkness. With my friend Rachel, a real estate attorney in Portland, I fought back. A title insurance policy from a decade ago became my salvation, covering fraud and valuing the property at its current market price. The insurance company paid me $2 million, pursuing my parents, the notary, and the title company for recovery. But justice wasn't simple. I chose not to reclaim the house, unwilling to displace the Thompsons, whose daughter Lily thrived in the lake's healing waters. That decision, born of compassion, was my first step toward healing. The legal fallout was severe. My parents lost their Denver home, their savings, and their reputation, moving to a modest apartment in Boise, Idaho, under a no-contact order. The notary faced criminal charges, and the title company paid penalties. Ethan, distancing himself from our parents, found purpose in an interior design business, funded by a loan I offered with clear boundaries. But the financial victory couldn't erase the emotional toll. Therapy with Dr. Ellis helped me see that my parents' actions fueled by gambling debts and a history of deceit, like selling our grandmother's paintings, reflected their flaws, not mine. In a support group for betrayal survivors, I found community, sharing stories that normalized my pain. I started a podcast, Rebuilding Trust, and a consulting business on fraud prevention, turning my loss into a mission to protect others. Volunteering to design accessible homes, inspired by Lily, gave my skills new purpose. My new life took root in a Belltown apartment overlooking Puget Sound, a canvas for resilience. I invested the insurance money wisely, securing my future, and began sketching a cabin in Aspen, Colorado, fortified with security to reflect my lessons. Ethan's designs brightened my home, our bond stronger than ever. The pain of Tahoe lingered some mornings. I'd reach for keys that no longer fit, but it was outweighed by hope. I hosted workshops on financial security, spoke at conferences, and grew my podcast, connecting with thousands who'd faced betrayal. As the 1-year anniversary of the loss approached, I planned a celebration with friends, toasting not what I'd lost, but what I'd gained: strength, clarity, and a life I'd chosen. The lessons from this journey are profound, and they're for anyone rebuilding after a storm. First, resilience is your greatest asset. Loss doesn't define you. What you build from it does. My Tahoe home is gone, but its spirit lives in my Aspen plans, my podcast, my community work. You too can transform pain into purpose. Start a project, share your story, create something new. Second, boundaries are liberation. My parents' betrayal taught me to protect my peace, whether by cutting contact or setting terms with Ethan. In your life, define what respect looks like and hold firm, even with those you love. Third, home is not a place, but a feeling you carry. My apartment, my volunteer designs, my connections, they're my home now. Find your own anchors, whether in family, hobbies, or community, and nurture them. Fourth, community heals. My support group and listeners showed me I wasn't alone. Seek out those who understand your pain, whether online or in person, and let their strength lift you. Finally, hope is a choice. Choosing compassion for the Thompsons, belief in Ethan, and faith in myself fueled my recovery. Choose hope daily, even when it's hard, and it will carry you forward. For you, living in 2025, these lessons are practical tools. If you're facing betrayal, be family, friends, or circumstance, start small. Journal your thoughts, like I did, to process pain. Seek professional help, like therapy, to untangle guilt or doubt. Educate yourself, as I did with real estate law, to reclaim control. Share your story, whether through a blog, a support group, or a conversation, it's a gift to others. Protect your dreams with boundaries, like checking your property title or setting clear expectations in relationships. Give back, whether volunteering or mentoring, to find meaning in loss, and dream again boldly. My Aspen cabin is my next chapter. Yours might be a career shift, a new hobby, or a fresh start. Whatever it is, know this. Your worth isn't in what's taken, but in what you build next. As I stand on my balcony, Puget Sound shimmering below, I'm not the woman who lost her Tahoe home. I'm the woman who rebuilt, who learned that betrayal doesn't have the final word. You have that power too. Your scars are proof of your strength, your dreams the blueprint for a future only you can create. Keep going, keep building, and let your story inspire others. If my journey resonates, share yours, comment, connect, let's grow together. The greatest blessings often come disguised as wounds, and your next chapter is waiting to be written.